So, I've been thinking up names recently,
Yeah,
for like rebranding the podcast when we move on to like other sort of media.
yeah.
Because, the Code Jovovich brand can only go so far, and that so far that it can go is the Resident Evil movies, because the live action ones are the only ones with Mila Jovovich in them. So,
Unless we did a Fifth Element stream someday,
one day,
one
one
day.
day. So, here are my brilliant ideas. When we move on to, say, 4D Executor or like Degeneration, Damnation, Vendetta,
Yeah.
I was thinking Resident CGville.
I.
Eh?
Uh, you
Eh?
know what? I should be mad, but I'm not mad. I'm not mad. Also,
Yeah.
whenever you mention 4D Executor, I just keep thinking 40 eggs for some reason.
Okay, so then I got another brilliant idea.
Yeah.
What if we did, because like obviously Resident Evil is your thing, your big
Yes.
thing. Silent Hill is my big thing. So I was thinking if we were to say go on to the Silent Hill movies,
Mm-hmm.
Restless Dweebs.
Oh my fucking god!
Right? I mean,
You,
Natalie suggested Alkamila Jovovich.
Gage, that comment is so bad I want to go out and murder my wife who doesn't exist. And then get a letter from her 5 years later.
Oh, funny thing about that. It wasn't actually 5 years later.
Well, I
Spoilers.
don't know. I don't know your Silent Lands of Hills and your James Masons.
Don't worry. One day I will teach you the ways of the Silent Hills.
Please teach me. I got stuck in a school with a rubber pole.
Resident Evil.
So hello and welcome to this week's episode of Code Jovovich. I'm Gage,
And I'm Lou.
and today we are going to be watching the next in the epic series that is the live-action Resident Evil movies, Resident Evil Apocalypse.
Yeah, this was the second of the movies that I have actually seen prior. For those who haven't watched the previous episode, what Gage and I essentially are doing is going through the live-action Resident Evil movie series. He's seen all of them. I've seen the first two. And he's essentially doing this to more or less torture me, but also to get my reactions out of a pretty big part of the franchise that I haven't really taken much of a look at before. So, Gage, if you can go ahead, you can give us the summary and the lowdown before we start, and then we can probably go into discussion of what we know about the film going in and our expectations.
Alright, so Resident Evil Apocalypse was a movie released in 2004, directed by Alexander Witt, still produced by Paul W.S. Anderson, but this was the first of the two movies that weren't directed by him.
I didn't know that part, actually.
Yeah, fun little fact for you. The synopsis is as such. After narrowly escaping the horrors of the underground hive facility, Alice, Mila Jovovich, is quickly thrust back into a war raging above ground between the living and the undead. As the city is locked down under quarantine, Alice joins a small band of elite soldiers, led by Valentine, Sienna Guillory, and Carlos, Oded Fair, enlisted to rescue the missing daughter of Dr. Ashford, the creator of the mutating T-virus. It's a heart-pounding race against time as the group faces off against hordes of bloodthirsty zombies, stealthy lickers, mutant canines, and the most sinister foe yet. Written and produced by the visionary director of Resident Evil, Paul W.S. Anderson, Aliens vs. Predator, and directed by Alexander Witt, Resident Evil Apocalypse is a superior sci-fi suspense sequel.
Oh,
Say that 5 times fast.
oh God! I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself by the visionary director part.
Oh man. Okay, so on the topic of some of the actors in this movie, because let's go into a little bit of what we know about the film.
Okay.
This is the first film to actually feature a character from the games outside of, I guess, Birkin. This is the first one to actually start featuring characters from the games, and our first character from the game, as you might know, is Jill Valentine. And there's some interesting implications with some of the ways that she reacts to things and how she basically carries herself that I'll get into a little bit once we've actually seen the movie, because we're gonna talk about it during our watch through. But as this is actually, like we mentioned last time, an adaptation of Resident Evil 3 more than anything, we also get Resident Evil 3's secondary protagonist, Carlos Oliveira, played by Oded Fair, and I was looking at TV tropes for all these movies because I kind of want to get an idea of like some of the general public opinions of some of these. And I did notice that for some reason, people apparently think Oded Fair is white.
I don't know. I've only seen the movie once. I mean, obviously in the games, Carlos Oliveira is Hispanic. We know that, but I'm unsure. That's right. I can't tell you. Going in a little bit also off of Carlos and what we do know, you did mention another name that is familiar to me from the franchise. In a different way, which is Ashford. Obviously, the Ashford family, specifically Edward, his son Alexander, and his two children, Alexia and Alfred, were essentially the main focus, story-wise, of the Umbrella branch in Resident Evil Code Veronica. I know there are also a few other characters here, again, since this is going primarily off of the Raccoon City outbreak from 3, and some elements of 2. Going in, I do remember that we do get another character in there, I believe, who I will discuss later. But yeah, this primarily goes off of a lot of the Raccoon City outbreak. I'm expecting, and I do remember, it very loosely covers the events of Resident Evil 3, Nemesis, and does adapt a few little elements here and there, I think, from Resident Evil 2 and Code Veronica to varying degrees. And one of those in particular, and one of those most infamous/memorable parts, is in terms of the monsters, because I also know this is the movie that really introduced the non-game community, I would say, to the Nemesis T-type bioweapon, which is obviously was already an icon in 3, and being that, he does appear in this film. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing and remembering how they handled him as well, because I'll have some interesting things to talk about there.
I don't know if we want to... We'll hold off on discussing... I guess it's not really a twist, because they kind of...
Well, it's still kind of a twist.
It's still kind of a twist, so we'll hold off on discussing it for right now. But yeah, as far as characters from the games that we get in this movie, we get the Nemesis, we get Jill Valentine, we get Carlos Oliveira, we get a couple of Ashfords, and we get Nikolai.
Yeah, that's the other one that's going to be interesting to talk about, how they kind of handled Nikolai.
Well,
because,
I mean... It's not going to be that interesting because he doesn't have quite the presence he does in Resident Evil 3.
Well, and that's why,
and
that's also because, just going into this, Nikolai is actually a favorite character of mine from 3, so that's going to be interesting, too, to see him in this.
Oh, you must have loved Operation Raccoon City, then.
Oh, go fuck yourself. Oh, that's another thing that's going to happen tonight, folks. I have a feeling I'm going to be telling Gage to go fuck himself a lot with this film. So, let's see if
We're going to come back from watching this movie, and just the first thing he's going to say is just, go fuck yourself, Gage. It's going to be great. You can set your clocks to it.
You wicked, wicked devil.
So yeah, that's about the extent of what we know about the film. In addition to like some other things we know, Sienna Guillory, like she was very serious about her role in this. She threw herself into it. She studied Jill's movements, her mannerisms, all for this role. While Oded Fair and Milla Jovovich had a bit more fun with it. Milla Jovovich carrying over, like I said, her absolute jazzed up attitude from the previous movie, and Oded Fair kind of being her opposite with that, replacing Michelle Rodriguez, who isn't in this movie because she died in the last one. It's not the last we'll see of her. She has not yet died enough.
Yeah, that's going to be, oh boy. I have a feeling that's a theme of this series.
And it is. Trust me. So as far as what we expect or what we want from this film, obviously I'm not expecting to find it quite as like legitimately enjoyable in a lot of ways as the first movie. I'm expecting it to be a lot goofier and to have more stuff for us to laugh at. I can think of a couple of scenes right off the top of my head that like I know I'm gonna watch. I'm just gonna be like, that was the dumbest thing in the world. I love it. I'm expecting to think that Nemesis is cool, but I'm also expecting to hear Lou tell me exactly why I'm wrong in thinking that. But that's less of what I'm expecting from the film and more what I'm expecting from my co-host here.
Yeah.
Lou?
You know, I am going to be blunt since, again, I have seen this one and I do have some memories. I'm going into this one expecting it's going to be a lot worse than the first one. And I think part of that's going to be I'm going to be going in knowing a lot of the content of the games, in this case, that the original story was based off of, and whether intentionally or not, I'm going to find myself comparing it a lot. And with the elephant in the room, I think of the new characters and how they kind of influence or impact the presence of characters I already know and love. So I think that's my thing. I'm expecting this one to honestly be not so much the, you know, rough around the edges, but still pretty decent-ish film that the original one was. I'm expecting more of this to more just be a straight up, yeah, this is kind of a bad movie.
A less enjoyable experience.
A less enjoyable experience, yeah. But I'll be open and wait and see what I think.
And then, just to kind of rewind real quick back to things that we know about the film, I will also point out, and we'll talk about this more once we go into sort of like probably the plot overview. This is the first movie in the series that I believe starts recreating scenes from the games.
It is, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because I think before we started this, I started rewatching some of the movies just to kind of familiarize myself with them. Specifically Afterlife and Retribution, because those are the ones I'm familiar with the least. And it gets a little bit heavier in those ones with scene recreation, but I believe we get a nod to, funnily enough, Code Veronica in this one.
I think we do.
With regards to scene recreation, so that'll be something to look forward to. I think we both kind of have similar ideas of kind of what to expect from this movie, where neither of us is really expecting it to be good at this point. I'm expecting to still enjoy it to a certain degree. You're expecting it to even be like a worse experience. Resident Evil 3 is one of the ones I'm not quite as familiar with.
Yeah, so I'll be probably scratching my neck beard and pointing out things repeatedly. I won't really, but
You'll be here to guide me.
Yeah, I'll be here to make a little pointers. Oh, one other thing I actually know that I can go in and expect is the character of LJ, because I remember
God.
LJ.
Let's save LJ for later.
We'll save LJ for later.
I don't want to think about LJ right now. So we're going to sign off, go watch the movie, and we will be back later.
Talk to y'all soon.
No! Don't go!
All right, and we are back. Holy shit. All right, Lou, would you like to do the honor of starting us off
Okay, I'm gonna
with
say
some
it.
immediate...
I'm gonna say it. Fuck you. Fuck you, and fuck this movie.
I can't say I didn't expect that.
I don't hate you, but you know what? Fuck it. This movie is so stupid. I can't stop laughing. It's fucking dumb.
Oh man.
my
So
God.
I would say that my expectations going into this were pretty level with what I got, where it was a bad movie that I was able to have some fun with because it's just fucking dumb as hell.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy with my ultimate outcome here.
In my case, I went in expecting a bad movie. I got a bad movie, but I didn't so much cringe in pain as just lose my shit at how bad it is. It's hilarious. Oh my god.
Which is good.
Yeah,
Which is good.
it's
I'm glad you got some enjoyment out of it.
Oh god, yeah.
Do you want to save your rant for when we get to what we liked or would change, or would you like to do that now while the iron's hot?
I'll say that I will, I'll have a preliminary rant. As somebody who really, really adores RE2 and 3, oh my god, Paul Anderson. What the fuck version of the games did you play to decide, yes, this is the story I want to tell? Why did you bring in these elements? Did nobody step over your shoulder and just go, maybe you shouldn't do this? And then is this when you decided, I need woman to be #1 wife killer machine in world? I will put in many fine film. What the... we're going to get into more details later with some rants, but oh my god. Mm-hmm. It's a work of art in all the wrong ways.
Yeah, because I think this is not the only Paul W.S. Anderson joint that Mila Jovovich has starred in, I'm pretty sure. I think she was in his version of The Three Musketeers.
Yeah, did he do Ultraviolet?
I don't think he did Ultraviolet, no. I think that was someone else.
I'll need to double check at some point. I'll double check. But yeah, you can continue now, because I'll save my rants for later.
But yeah, there was a lot of stuff that I think, because I had never played the games when I had originally watched this, the few times that I had originally watched this, and especially because I haven't really played RE3 yet, I haven't gotten that far. There was a lot of stuff that on my original viewings I couldn't really appreciate. Watching this with you helps me appreciate some of those more, and we'll definitely get into those. I would like to say that much, though, before we get into the plot overview, that just, like, there were things about this movie that I appreciate more now that I know about the series and now that I've seen the other movies in the franchise, where Apocalypse might sit at number 2 for me.
Really?
Given the rest of the movies in the franchise, yeah.
I have a feeling it might be slowly like a diminishing, just by number. You could rank them just by number going down, it sounds like.
It sounds like that, but I'm going to need to wait until we watch the next movie to decide whether the number 3 spot is Extinction or Afterlife, honestly.
Okay, that's fair.
Let's launch into the plot overview. So, like I said at the end of last week's podcast, this movie does take place kind of off the tail end of the first Resident Evil movie. What it opens up with some shots on the idyllic city, on the idyllic burg of Raccoon.
Yes.
Raccoonville. And we get some shots of the city when it wasn't, dying.
Yeah. Back when it was sunny suburban America.
Yeah, which is nice, because I don't think we ever really get that.
We don't in the games, no. We never actually get to see, outside of a few, like, victory screens or cleared screens in, like, RE1, the original PlayStation version, you really don't see anything of Raccoon City before the outbreak, which is interesting, and yeah, now that you mention it.
Meanwhile, deep underground in the Hive, Umbrella has made the breathtakingly poor decision to reopen the Hive and find out what went on down there, instead of, asking the survivors.
Including the one they clearly kidnapped and experimented on.
Yeah. So they open it up, the people that go down there get attacked by lickers, all hell hasn't broken loose just yet. We're getting there, but not quite yet. The very first thing that they decide to do is they decide to send out some black vans to pick up various Umbrella researchers, leaders, things like that, from their homes, so that, they can continue their research once Raccoon City is no more, basically. And they go to a couple people's houses, and then they end up at the house of one Dr. Charles Ashford, who I guess is just supposed to be... We get Ashfords in this movie.
Yeah, he's kind of... It's like using the vaguest elements of the Ashford family from Code Veronica. And I mean, like, the vaguest as in the name, and they're part of Umbrella, basically. Oh, and that they did viral research. So it's like super loose adaptation there.
He's basically a combination of Edward Ashford, William Birkin, and actually Dr. Marcus.
Kinda, yeah.
Because Dr. Marcus was the one that developed the T-virus.
Yeah, now that you mention it, because this would have been... this would have been after Zero came out, so yeah.
So they go to him, and they're just like, we need to get you out of the city. He's like, I'm not going until I've found my daughter.
She's already left for school. As he yells over a helicopter.
That's just kind of in his house, I guess. They let him know that, someone's already gone to pick up your daughter, and then we cut to Midwich Elementary over here. Told you I'd find a place to make that joke.
You did.
Raccoon City Junior School. Not junior high. Junior school, where we see one little Angela Ashford being picked up from class by some Umbrella Corps.
Oh, god damn it.
And they get her into one of those vans. The van, I guess, must have run a red light or something, because it gets fucking T-boned by a
I was wondering
semi.
about that scene, because that actually kind of confused me too. I was like, wait, where did the truck come from?
It's the semi from Resident Evil 2.
Oh god, you're right. You're not even joking. Oh god.
So then, after that, we cut to a few hours later, I think.
Yep.
It was about 13?
13 hours later.
13 hours later, and the zombie plague has spread breathtakingly fast. Also, just as breathtakingly fast is Umbrella's response to it, honestly.
Yeah, they kind of... They're just like, yeah, well, this is happening. Come on.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that they never responded that quickly in the games.
The entire outbreak didn't happen that quickly in the games. In the games, it took over a week for it to reach that capacity, is the thing. Like, it was actually happening over months in the games, because it was still leaking from the first game and from the events in there.
Chris was long gone by the time 3 and 2 had started.
Yep, Chris and Barry had both gone to Europe, and that's when Jill was left behind.
Barry came back.
Yeah, Barry did come back, but yeah, he and... Yep, because Jill was there, and she was like, I'm going to stay behind. Chris was like, I'm going to research the G-Virus and head to the Paris facilities.
You mean the T-Virus?
No, the G-Virus, because that's why he left.
Really?
He finds notes, and he had found information about the G-Virus, and he was like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and investigate this in Europe. Please forgive me, Claire.
So, what happened next? Oh yeah, what happened next is that we get shots of the character that should have been the main heroine gearing up and heading out, switching out a pair of high heels for a pair of sensible combat boots, thank God.
And gunning down and just opening fire in a police station.
Well, because we talked about this while we
Yeah.
were watching the movie, there seems to be the implication, just based on Jill's first scene in the police station, that the events of Resident Evil 1 in some capacity have already happened.
Yes, it did. It did seem to imply that. And it seemed to imply she knew ahead of time, maybe from other cases. And that was what was interesting. They don't... And that was something kind of weird, is they never... You were talking to me that they did mention in some like supplemental materials, there was the implication that she had shot her partner, Leon S. Kennedy, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and yet they never really explain what it was in this film that had her shunned, it was kind of weird. It's like stars are set up, and yet you're kind of like, okay, why?
Yeah, she's already an ex-Stars member by this point, and she's just called a disgraced cop. And that's kind of one of the things that makes me think, oh, it was another one of those things where, oh, Resident Evil 1 has already happened.
Yeah.
Because if it has already happened, she's already familiar with zombies. She's probably dealt with this already. Because this is another thing. The 13 hours later thing doesn't make sense.
It doesn't, yeah.
Only because there's already a newspaper out that says The Dead Walk.
Oh my god, you're right.
There's already a newspaper out about how Jill Valentine is a disgraced cop from the STARS unit.
Yeah, it's like...
They
my God.
should have made it seem like it took a lot longer.
They could have, if they had given it maybe like 3 days. I would have even taken like 3 days later. And I mean, yeah, that would have had the issue of the car scene, but you could have still like tweaked that. You could have still had like some explanation in between then. I think if they had given it a little more buffer time, it wouldn't have felt so weird of just having suddenly like, whoop, we're going to lock everything up.
Surprise.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you are correct. The Leon S. Kennedy thing is present in a deleted scene.
Oh, okay.
Because they decided to drop that from Jill's backstory. Their reasoning probably to bring back Leon S. Kennedy because, as we mentioned in the pre-show, this movie came out in 2004, aka around the time of Resident Evil 4's release. So Leon
yeah.
S. Kennedy was a hot commodity.
Yep, this would have been right before, actually, because there were even ads for the DVDs with the GameCube copy of 4.
So they, in all likelihood, scrapped the idea of Leon S. Kennedy dying in order to use him in future movies, which they did. Leon S. Kennedy is president in Retribution. More on that when we get to the movie. That also includes implications that makes me think that Resident Evil 2 also happened sometime, or at least some approximation of Resident Evil 2 happened concurrently with this movie.
Yeah.
Because we obviously have Claire in Extinction and Afterlife and the final chapter. Man, Claire shows up more than any other like adapted character in these movies.
She does, yeah.
This is the most action Claire has ever gotten.
Well, wait, hold up though. What about
No,
Wesker? Technically,
Yeah, Wesker gets well.
he's in all the movies since Extinction. I know that much.
Right. Is he actually going to be?
He's in the final chapter. He's in final chapter.
Okay, yeah. No, I was going to say like Claire gets more action in the movies than she does in the games.
Yeah. Oh, kind of true. Kind of true.
Not 100% true because she does also get a CG film.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get to Claire and what is essentially a Code Veronica adaptation later on in the series.
I think that's the next movie.
No, next movie is Extinction, which is kind of its own thing. Afterlife is more of a Code Veronica adaptation, I would say, because it features Claire and Chris as main characters and also takes place in prison for the most part.
True, and it also seems to be kind of an RE5 adaptation too, to an extent.
To a certain extent, but that's a little bit more confusing. Anyways,
Yeah.
back to Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Jill is being all fucking badass and like going around the city, and then Carlos also shows up and he's with the Umbrella Corps and they're trying to like save people, but eventually they're just kind of left behind. While this is all happening, Alice wakes up in the hospital, much like we saw at the end of the first movie, and wanders out into the street. And while she's out in the street, she finds a store that sells guns and clothes.
Yeah.
Is this just like the corner Walmart?
Yes.
Walmart brand corner store?
Dude, come on. We're both Americans. We know this is how you can go to any
This
store. You
does
get yourself a Glock, you get yourself a smock.
This does take place in Midwestern America.
Oh god. Yeah, no, it technically does it? I don't even know in this case. I think
They
this one
sh-
takes
they
place in
showed on the
Philadelphia.
map.
They do
Oh,
show it on the
well,
map?
I think so. Anyways,
I don't know.
so guns and clothes are us. And she, at one point, she collapses and she's like, "Oh God, what the fuck?" And then she looks at her arm, and the flesh bud is creeping up her arm.
Oh God,
I'm
you're
sorry,
right.
I watched a lot of JoJo today.
You should. You shouldn't feel bad.
I
You
should
shouldn't
stand
feel
proud
bad.
about that fact.
These haven't exactly been great. These haven't been great days dealing with this crap.
So we cut back to Jill, who has met up with another member of the STARS team, and this is something that we pointed out. All of the members of STARS are dressed like Chris.
Yeah, that was kind of cracking me up. I was like,
They're a bunch of Chris cosplayers.
because the first time what happened was I was like in the background, I was like, that guy dressed like Chris. Then another guy comes up, I'm like, that guy's Chris too. It literally looks like the guy from the opening cutscene of RE1, the 96 version. It looks like they just took that exact same costume off the set, and it's kind of amazing.
But not Jill's costume. They couldn't find enough big foam rubber shoulder pads.
They couldn't find the right beret for Sienna Gilroy.
Nope. So they decided to go with her RE3 outfit, which looks great.
Oh, it does.
That costume
she rocks
design
that.
was spot on. Sienna Gilroy is the MVP of this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
I would say.
Oh
100%.
my god.
It is unfortunate we're not going to see her again until the mid-credit scene of Afterlife.
Oh god, yeah.
So, meanwhile, a guy from the police station that Jill helped to free has his own wacky adventures. Okay, so we should mention, additionally, by the end of this movie, we have a nipple count of 7.
Yeah.
Which includes both of Milla Jovovich's nipples. And then 2 naked zombies.
Yeah, zombie strippers.
Zombie strippers, which menace our hero, LJ. Which we'll talk about LJ later when we get to things we would change.
Yeah, god.
Suffice to say, it's not great. So, Jill, one of her STARS buddies, Peyton Wells, and a weather lady, whose name escapes me, take shelter in a church. And in that church, they meet some dude. This dude doesn't get a name. Doesn't fucking matter.
Mm-mm.
While they're hanging out in the church, Jill kind of goes to look around because they hear a strange noise, and she's like, "What was that noise?" And she finds this priest man who has tied up his sister, who has become a zombie, and he's feeding her because religion, I guess, whatever.
Yeah, she's sick. I need to help her.
Meanwhile, the other members of the group are dealing with lickers, which are jumping all around and generally menacing them. Mr. No-Name runs off and gets himself killed.
Mm-hmm.
Jill finds his gun, grabs it, also sees the lickers, slowly makes her way back into the cathedral, and is pulled aside by Peyton. And they're just like, oh shit, oh fuck, oh shit. And they fire off all their rounds and they're like, shit, 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 we're out of ammo. And then the movie becomes bad.
Yeah, oh god, with a motorcycle.
Who comes crashing through the window on a motorcycle, but it's your girl, Milla Jovovich.
God, fucking damn it. It goes from Resident Evil to Devil May Cry, and that's not even a joke.
It's not.
It's not even a joke.
So Milla crashes through on a motorcycle, hits one of the lickers, shoots a couple Umbrella-branded bullets into another, and man, if you thought the Umbrella branding was bad in the first movie, wait till you see this one. Like I said, still kind of works if we make the assumption that Raccoon City is basically boarding for Umbrella employees.
Yeah.
That still kind of works in my mind, but it gets bad where the Umbrella branding is just on fucking everything.
Oh god, it is. It's
everywhere.
They have the thing that was cracking me up was the laptop screensavers, because not only the Umbrella logo, it's with the Batman animated series font for the Umbrella Corporation. Not even that. It was just like and I'm just looking at that. I'm like, that's the Batman font. That's the fucking Paul Dini Batman font. What the fuck?
Oh man. So she kills all the lickers because God forbid we have Jill Valentine do that. Jill Valentine walks up and she's just like, "Who the fuck are you?" And it's just like, you know what? That's a really good question.
I'm dating the man who wrote this film. That's who I am.
So they get out of the church and they start walking through the graveyard. Meanwhile, LJ, good old LJ.
We forgot to mention.
I didn't forget.
GTA motherfucker.
Yeah, 10 points. Anyways, moving on. LJ has made his way to what is ostensibly a movie theater where there's a dude atop it dressed as Chris, but Cowboy Chris.
Cowboy Chris.
It's the Wild West Chris action figure.
Tex-Mex flavor Chris.
He's sitting on top of the movie theater, sniping zombies and just having a hell of a time. LJ makes his way into the movie theater where there's a group of STARS members, all dressed as Chris,
including Dad
for whatever
Chris.
reason. Okay,
Older
so one of the neat things about the STARS unit in the first Resident Evil is that they're all color coded.
Yeah, and they're a limited bunch.
Chris is dark green. Jill is blue. Barry is red.
Wesker's kind of a midnight blue.
Wesker's like
black.
A deep blue or a black.
Forrest was blue. Kenneth was a green with yellow. Richard
Rebecca's
was orange.
like a mint green and white.
Yeah, like olive green, mint green with white. Richard was orange. Brad was yellow.
Brad Chicken Heart Vickers.
Mm-hmm. Edward was dark blue as well. But yeah, they're all color coded. Number one, they're a smaller bunch. They're kind of an elite of the elites, and number two, they're color coded, so they're easy. Number one to recognize. And number two, they all feel like diverse people. They abuse the STARS thing of here of, hey, you guys like STARS from the games? There you go. And it's all kind of just for a setup of one big scene, which is what comes up next.
And I think that's part of it where it's just like, oh, you don't need to have them color-coded because it's not going to matter in like the next 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Because in the next 30 seconds, who shows up but it's your boy,
Nemesis.
Matt. Matasis.
I love giant robots. Oh, God.
Nemesis looks good. I like how Nemesis looks, just kind of overall, except for maybe his big dumb shoes. Nemesis shows up, scans everybody. It turns out in this movie that Nemesis is being controlled. Nemesis is not acting on his own to just kind of kill things like he was in the game. He is being programmed. He is being controlled. He's got a minigun and a rocket launcher. He recognizes that 12 of the people in front of him are STARS, one is a civilian, and he is given the order to kill just the STARS members, which he does. He completely misses LJ.
Yeah.
And then LJ drops his guns and Nemesis walks off.
In an actual comedy scene.
Yep,
with
and Nemesis lets out a STARS.
Yeah, I forgot that.
Which is pretty cool.
It's fan service. Yeah, I'll let it slide.
So we cut back to Alice and Jill because I guess we were all really interested in what Alice was doing at that time. They get a message from a Dr. Charles Ashford about how he wants them to rescue his daughter.
On
and
payphones.
He is prepared to help them on a payphone, they call him. He used to call them on a payphone.
I know when that hotline
when they
bling.
need his help.
Now I just want Drake in that role, and he's just kind of swinging and looking away from the camera and being sad in a chair.
God. All right, so he contacts the group with Alice and Jill. He's just like, yo, find my daughter. And they're just like, fuck, okay. And they walk around for a little bit. Then Alice is like, wait, I feel something. I've not felt this presence since.
Oh, God.
And then your boy Nemesis shows up, kills Peyton, first off, murders the shit out of him, and then does battle with Alice. And he does the really dumb bunny hop over a fence.
He jumps on a fucking police car, just boing and stop. After blowing her through the air, when she slow-mo wuxia film runs in midair until she hits the ground from a slow-mo explosion, and just...
I hope you're ready for more of that slow-mo, because, oh boy, it gets bad.
There is so much slow-mo explosion foo in this movie, it's not even funny.
We have not even begun to slow-mo.
Oh God, yeah.
So, Alice gets separated from Jill, and the reporter slides her way down a garbage chute to lose Nemesis, and it's just like, wait, what's that over there? Is that the script? Jill, the master of hot wiring, manages to hotwire a car, kills a zombie Peyton, because he had gotten bitten early in the film.
Yep.
And they take off, she and the reporter. Meanwhile, Carlos Oliveira and one Nikolai what's-his-face...
Genoveve, according to the film, how they pronounce it.
Yeah, they also receive a call from Dr. Ashford after... And this is long after they've found like an airdrop from an Umbrella helicopter that was carrying Nemesis's weapons. They also get a call from Dr. Ashford on a cell phone? I don't know how that works. And their third friend number 3... whose name is Yuri, he turns into a zombie, bites Carlos, and then they have to ice Yuri.
Oh God, get out.
It's the third time I've used that joke. It still hasn't gotten old. It hasn't gotten old because it wasn't fresh to begin with. So, now Carlos is infected, They get a call from Ashford to go find his daughter as well, and everybody converges on Midwich Elementary. I'm sorry, Raccoon City Junior School.
Yeah, the school
They walk
for
in.
juniors.
Jill and the reporter have met up with LJ at this point. So the three of them make their way inside, and Jill's just like, okay, let's split up, gang. And the reporter is just like, what? What? I can't be by myself. Are you kidding me? And Jill is like, here, untrained civilian, have this gun. Shoot them in the head. Because Jill is apparently all about giving dangerous firearms to unlicensed civilians. So they split up. LJ walks around, finds Carlos. The reporter lady walks around, finds a room full of zombie children, and in a legitimately chilling scene, is fucking eaten.
Yeah, that was actually genuinely creepy. So I will commend them
that
for that.
unnerved me. Jill, in the meantime, has found little baby
Barry.
Sherry Birkin.
Oh my god.
And we should mention that Angela is Ashford in name only. She is essentially Sherry to an extent.
Yeah, she's Sherry with a little... No, not actually, no. Well, I guess Sherry with the vaguest of vague element of Alexia in, like, she's the daughter.
I would say that Angela is as much Sherry Birkin as I would say that Alice is.
Yeah.
I have my own theories on how Alice is Sherry Birkin. But that's besides the point.
She's basically Sherry, though, yeah.
She's basically Sherry. So they're kind of wandering around. They run into Nikolai, who is immediately killed by zombie dogs. In what is just like, he just out of nowhere, just bam!
The moment he says his name, he gets fucking jumped.
And in that moment, Lou in the movie agreed. But Jill and Angela run into the cafeteria kitchen for a Jurassic Park homage. Jill is menaced by a lunch lady zombie, and then after that is menaced by some more zombie dogs, turns on all the gas, runs out of the room, tosses a book of matches in there. The matches go out before they hit the floor, but luckily Alice has arrived with a fireproof blanket and is smoking, and she throws the lighter into the gas, or no, she flicks the cigarette into the gas, killing the zombie dogs and causing a huge explosion that she protects herself and Angela with while Jill dives off to the side.
Oh, God.
So now Alice is back in the film, and the movie isn't great again. So everybody meets up. We find out that little Angie here has been infected with the T-virus in order to keep her legs from deteriorating and has to take regular injections of the antivirus. Much like a certain villain that we know from the Resident Evil franchise. Carlos and LJ meet up with the rest of the group, find out Nikolai's been killed. Alice is just like, yo, Carlos, you infected? And Carlos is just like, yeah, man. She's just like, hey, guess what? We got the antivirus.
Yeah, we do.
Like, shit. So they get back into contact with Dr. Ashford, and he's just like, I'd like to talk to my daughter, please. I must use her to defeat Sherlock Holmes. And he's just like, yo, there's a helicopter that's going to be leaving from the middle of the city right over here. And they're just like, shit, let's go. He is then captured by the bad guy of the film, who I completely forget his name. He's some
Did he
asshole.
even have a name?
He has a name. I don't remember what it was.
I don't think they ever mentioned his name. I'm being dead serious. I don't think they ever mentioned his name in the film.
I'm sure they do. I just don't fucking... whatever.
I'll look it up while you're going. I'll look it up.
So he's just like, yo, guess what? Fuck you. And then they capture him. Alice, Jill, Carlos, and the gang just kind of show up at that helicopter pad. Carlos kills a couple of dudes. The sniper is just like, haha, I'm gonna get him. And then Alice is just like, peekaboo, and punches him out. And then she runs down the building because why not?
I found his name, by the way. It's Major Timothy Kane.
That guy.
Yeah.
Everybody's favorite Resident Evil character, Major Timothy Kane. So they manage to take out all the surrounding Umbrella soldiers and get into the helicopter. But then Major Timothy Kane shows up and somehow sneaks his way on board and takes Angela hostage.
He teleports on board.
He teleports on board. There's really no other way to put that.
And is this before or after LJ did that, too?
This is before LJ does that as well.
This is before.
So he's just like, yo, Alice, fight Nemesis.
Oh, God.
And Alice is just like, nah. And he's just like, I'll start killing them. And she's just like, I barely even know these people. So he shoots Dr. Ashford.
Shoots him.
And Alice's poker face immediately just, like, drops. And he's just like, that dude was a top researcher at our company. I don't even have any idea who any of these other people are. He's just like, you seriously believe that I'm bluffing? She's just like, well, shit, when you put it like that, okay. And then she walks over to Nemesis and she's just like, live and let die. And then they have a big dumb fight where she realizes, oh fuck, it's Matt from the first movie.
Oh god, yeah.
So she refuses to kill him, and he's just like, finish him, because I guess we're back in Mortal Kombat now. He's like, finish him.
Get
And
it?
she's
'Cause
just like,
Paul
nah,
Anderson.
man. It's Paul W.S. Anderson. And she's like, nah, man. He's just like, you are so very disappointing. Darn. So he walks off, and Nemesis, I guess, is totally fine, and he walks off. And then, Nemesis turns on them and starts killing all the Umbrella Corps, and the other dudes free themselves. Meanwhile, Alice has to run off and have a Code Veronica homage where they recreate very specific scenes from the opening of Code Veronica.
Yep, the shot-for-shot sequence of Claire infiltrating the Paris facilities in Umbrella. They basically do that spot on with the helicopter sequence and the slowly dropping the gun and sliding down before it to pick it up in slow motion and shoot some guy's bit.
Which was dumb when it happened in Code Veronica,
It was dumb when
too.
it happened in Code Veronica. It's dumb when it happens in this. But in both cases, it's kind of an okay dumb.
So Nemesis is still wrecking fools. He shoots a helicopter, it fucking splatters into him, and it's hilarious. Alice gets knocked the fuck out. Meanwhile, Mr. Major Timothy Kane over here is just like, we gotta get in the air, what are you doing? LJ, who has suddenly teleported aboard the helicopter somehow, despite the fact that he was not the first one to free himself from his binds, and had absolutely no way of getting past Kane in the first place, is just like, 'cause I usually drive a Cadillac, and then he punches him.
Oh god.
We'll get to him, don't worry.
Help.
So everybody gets aboard the helicopter, save for Dr. Ashford, who is dead.
Yes.
And Alice gets on board, and while the helicopter's taking off, she drags Kane to the back of it and is just like, yo, I'm going to throw you out this helicopter. He's just like, this won't make things right. And she's like, no. Start. With a very, very bad line read. So she drops him out of the helicopter. Ashford, who has become a zombie despite the fact that he has absolutely no reason to become a zombie, then bites him, and he is feasted upon by zombies. And it's pretty cathartic, I would say.
Yeah.
So they are trying to get out of
They're trying to get out
Evil
of
Apocalypse.
Resident Evil Apocalypse.
They're trying to get out of Raccoon City because the nuke is on its way. The nuke in this case being shot by the Umbrella Corporation rather than by the U.S. government. The nuke decimates the city, and they lose control of the helicopter, and the helicopter crashes. Alice, in the meantime, has been impaled due to the turbulence.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, she'll be fine. They land in the Arklay Mountains. They got healing herbs all over the place.
She's gonna be okay. She's just kind of, half her face is burnt. She's got a giant chunk of metal through her.
Yeah, and they just leave her behind.
Yeah.
Everyone
else is hurt.
Nobody stays to see if maybe she'll survive because she's fucking loaded up with the goddamn T-virus.
Just leave her there, tuck her in a blanket, and let Umbrella pick her up. It's fine.
So a few weeks go by, and by the way, the crash site is where we get our first good shot of one Dr. Isaacs, who we'll talk about in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
A few weeks go by, and we see Alice sitting in a Ghost in the Shell-esque pose inside a Empire Strikes Back-esque healing chamber.
Oh, we forgot to mention something, though. A few weeks go by, and the footage nearly gets out of what goes on, only for Umbrella to basically go, no, that was a hoax. It was a
That's
nuclear
not what
meltdown.
happened.
And Jill and Carlos are now wanted fugitives, and you could pick them up by calling 555 jail.
Jill and Carlos are wanted fugitives. Nobody gives a shit about LJ.
Or yeah, Angie, who the fuck cares?
I mean, they can't make Angie a fugitive. She's a child.
Send her to child jail.
555 child jail.
Child jail. That'd be more numbers.
So that whole sequence just reminds me at the beginning of Degeneration, because it's basically the same thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So a few weeks go by. Alice is in an Umbrella facility having even more experiments done on her, because I guess the first round weren't enough. And Dr. Isaacs notices that, hey, she's regained consciousness. Let's let her out. He's just like, okay, she seems to be doing pretty good. She's up, she's walking around, she's trying to remember things, she's like cognizant, she's kind of talking. So let's go ahead. And then Alice is just like, my name is Alice, and I remember everything. And he's just like, oh no. And then she uses the Umbrella branded pen that she was writing on an Umbrella branded clipboard with to almost stab someone in the eye, and then she's like, psych, and punches him out. And then she just beats up everybody in the room, slams Dr. Isaac's head through a glass window. She's tased by a dude, but it doesn't affect her, so she throws the taser back. And then she's just kind of walking through the halls in a sheet, and some security guard is just like, yo, we gotta break out. And then suddenly all the monitors that he's looking at turn to Alice, and she looks at the camera, and he has the worst headache of his life.
Yeah.
And then he dies.
I love
bleeding
Akira.
from... That's basically what that was, yeah. Holy fucking shit, she's basically Tetsuo. So she gets outside where the Umbrella Corps are waiting for her, and they all point their guns at her, and they're just like, stop. And she's just like, okay. And then a black van pulls up. And who gets out but Jill, Carlos, and LJ, I guess. Because LJ's here, everybody. Thank goodness. And they're just like, we're taking her with us. Level 6, blah, 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 blah. And they leave, and Dr. Isaacs is like, let them leave. And then suddenly, Alice's eyes flash the Umbrella logo. Because Alice is apparently now also Umbrella branded.
Yeah, I can see that.
Then the scene pulls out and keeps pulling out until it's looking at the Earth, and we see a satellite that has the Umbrella logo on it. Because have you gotten by this point that Umbrella is the bad guy?
Oh my god.
Umbrella is a bad thing, and that's where the movie ends. Shit. So, like I said, this movie was goofy as hell, and I had a lot of fun watching it. It was bad. It was worse than the first movie. I would probably put it at my number 2 as far as like Resident Evil movie quality, live action movie quality goes. So now that we've gotten the plot overview of the way, let's go into what we liked.
Yeah.
So this movie has a similar thing going for it as the first movie, where there are in fact certain scenes that do play out really well and are shot really well and have a very good sort of tension about them. Chief among them, when Jill and Peyton first arrive at the church, and they're everything in the church up until Alice smashing through the window on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And then much later on, everything in the Raccoon City Junior School up until Alice shows up. You can basically kind of judge what scenes in the movie are good and which ones are bad by whether or not Alice is there.
That's pretty much what I was going to say. Is like the moment Alice isn't there, the movie actually gets kind of scary and tense at times. And also LJ, if the times he's not there.
We'll get to LJ.
We'll get to LJ, but basically, when you're not having the action or the awkward comedy, there's a level of honest-to-God polish, and something that actually I was looking up just now is the director, Alex Witt. Guess what movies he went on to do?
What movies did he go on to do?
He went on to be second unit director for Casino Royale and Skyfall. So I can see that now. That I mean, he actually seems to have some understanding of good framing and good shots. And I mean, I'm kind of pulling some of this out of thin air because I don't know as much about theatrical stuff. But yeah, those shots, there's a lot of there's darkness and it's used really well. It's creepy. It's like the church scene is probably the best scene in the movie, in my opinion, because it's that fear. You have these characters just generally going, what the hell is that? Trapped. Not much ammo, surrounded by liquors. You get the scene with the priest and his sister, which is honestly disturbing. You get the scene in the junior school with the children, which again creeped both of us out. It's unsettling stuff. So there are those moments, those very rare but very good moments that it just makes you think if the film, maybe in the hands of a more competent script, makes you think there's something here that's actually could make for a really good Resident Evil movie. I would argue there were elements that could have been even better than the first one here.
I would say that the tension moments in this one were better than the first one.
Oh, absolutely.
I would say when this movie shines, it shines hard. It's just that the lower moments are much lower.
Oh yeah, it's the lower moments are much lower and unfortunately much more prevalent. But yeah, no, absolutely. And again, this goes into, I think I'll go into something leading into this, of another thing we liked and we've discussed was Sienna Guillory. I hope I got that name right, by the way.
I generally pronounce it Guillory, but yeah,
Guillory, but she is the best we could have ever gotten for Jill, in my opinion. She
Oh, yeah.
is wonderful in this film. We were mentioning before that she really memorized the character's body language, her lines, and it all shines through.
How she holds the gun.
How she moves, yeah, just...
How she holds the gun.
How she holds the gun is like spot on to remake. She has the attitude, she has the professional, that sense of command that Jill has in the games, that cold, no-nonsense attitude, and it works. And she is, and it's, again, it goes so wonderfully with the scenes that we're talking about, because she feels like the character in the games. I felt like, this is what I wanted. This is what I would sit down and love, is just having her there as the main character. Because she's so fucking good! And it's just,
And then, in addition to that, they also gave her some kind of, Claire-esque moments when she was interacting with Angie.
Yeah, which I actually kind of liked, and it made sense, too.
Which...
If you're going for
Which
RE2.
I feel like we didn't get... Yeah, which, I feel like we didn't get enough of, because then, of course, Alice comes into the picture. We do have a lot of really kind of strong performances in this movie. Oded Ferris Carlos is great, which isn't necessarily too hard to do, because Carlos is...
He's a weird character in the
not
games.
a huge entity to begin with.
Yeah, and the thing with Carlos going into RE3 is that Carlos is a character where, just as an aside, RE3 had the live selection system, where anything that you did, certain scenes would impact the story of the game. And as a result, Carlos's personality also kind of varies on the options you have. For example, one path you could take, you'd end up meeting up with him again, and he'd basically be ready and willing to die. And another one, it would be, he's like, yeah, we're getting out of here. We're not done yet. Let's keep going. So he's kind of a weird character in that sense of, he doesn't really have a set personality, especially since he didn't show up for a game after 3, barring
Operation Raccoon
That's
City.
not real. We don't talk about that. It's not real. I don't need to hear. But yeah, other than that, and Umbrella Chronicles. So yeah, and I have my issues with the portrayal of Carlos personally, but he was a good actor. Odin Fair, he was a good actor for it. I thought he did a good job. Really bang-up job.
Yeah, for what he had to work with,
Yeah.
I would say he did a really good job. As much as I would say Alice's character ruins a lot of the scenes, I think, still a pretty solid performance by Mila Jovovich.
Yeah, she does. She still does. She's still a good actress, I will say. Definitely, yeah.
My issues with Alice are definitely with the script, how the movie is written, how it's paced. Not so much with her actress, except for maybe that one line when she throws the dude off the helicopter. That was a little goofy.
You loved Cigarette?
Again, that's a script and pacing issue.
That's true.
Not a Mila Jovovich issue.
That's true.
Angie wasn't bad as far as child actors go.
No, she wasn't. I think she didn't have that much to say, which I think also kind of helped. She didn't have a ton of lines.
Given that this is the character who the Red Queen is ostensibly based off of,
Oh God, you're right.
I think that's the best that we could have hoped for. The secondary characters, Peyton was pretty good. The TV reporter was pretty good.
I liked her. I wish we had gotten a little bit more of her, to be honest.
Yeah, the things with that one nameless dude in the church and the priest and all that was all fine.
I like that too, and I was telling Gage during that. I think the dude in the church, I think, was trying to go for a character from 3, Dario Rosso, who is kind of this cowardly survivor that Jill tries to save. Basically, at the start of the game, he's just watched his family get eaten in front of him, and so he locks himself up. And later in the game, you can come back, you'll find that they've broken in, zombies have broken in and eaten him. I did get a vibe, because he also kind of looks like Dario. Same haircut, same hair color. So I did like that, though. Having just having a panicked civilian or two was really good. So I did like that. And I also liked, I liked Peyton as a character. He reminded me of Marvin from RE2, which was neat. I thought he was actually a pretty good guy to have with Jill, and it gave a little bit of a nice, what's the word, rapport, I guess?
Rapport.
Good rapport, yeah.
Yeah.
So I liked him.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we've got a lot. This is another thing where it's just there aren't a lot of really bad performances. I would say, except for Major Timothy Kane,
God.
who just phones it in so hard.
He does. I was joking with Gage. I was like, so is this just one of the producers for the film? Just wanted to be in?
because he's German.
He has a very
he
is a German actor, and he has a very thick German accent, and so I just kept thinking, did they get somebody from Constantine films just to sit in here and just do what he wanted? He's not very well utilized, I will admit.
Ian Glenn, for his short scene, didn't do a bad job.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how Ian Glenn acts.
Yeah.
For the most part. So, pretty decent.
Which one was Ian Glenn?
Ian Glenn was Dr. Isaacs.
Okay, I kept wondering because I'm not as familiar with the actor personally.
Yeah, and you're gonna want to be used to that face because we're gonna see him all throughout Extinction, and then he's also gonna be in Final Chapter.
Oh boy,
go figure. Ian Glenn's character, Dr. Isaacs, basically being Dr. Birkin, which we should mention is a Dr. Birkin-esque character because they couldn't get
Jason Isaacs
back to play Dr. Birkin for this movie, so instead they created a different character and named that character after Jason Isaacs as a tribute to his performance, which I find is really weird because, among other things, you never see Dr. Birkin's face, so you could have literally given the part to anyone.
And if you'd had Birkin, it would have made more sense with this being the raccoon outbreak, because Birkin was part of the one who started it. So it's like...
And then in addition to that, Birkin wasn't really in the first one. He wasn't even named.
He wasn't. They didn't actually add a reference to Birkin until the remake 6 years later for the first one.
And it's just like...
It's a weird thing, too.
You could have just called Jason or Dr. Isaacs Birkin. You could have just done that and it would have been fine.
It would have made more sense for what I know of the next film. And also what I know of... They've recast actors, too, because don't they recast Wesker's actor between films?
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's kind of a similar thing where Wesker is really only barely in Extinction.
Yeah.
So it's fine. It's kind of a similar thing, especially, considering what happens in Extinction, where Dr. Isaac's sort of character arc is very similar to Birkin's character arc. Just in kind of what his goal is and what he becomes. Where I would go so far to say he is the Birkin of this series.
Another thing I'll say I liked actually was going off the first one. While we don't have Marilyn Manson back to do any iconic theme, I will say I actually kind of like the soundtrack to this movie. It's it's nothing to write home about, but I think it worked. It was pretty serviceable, and going back to the shots you were talking about, also really liked the idea of some of intentional throwbacks to the games at the time of the fixed camera angles. That was actually a nice touch.
Yeah, we did mention that because this was something that I didn't figure out until after the podcast last week, where in both the first Resident Evil movie and in this Resident Evil movie, we get a lot of shots of the characters from security cameras, fixed security cameras, and it started to feel to me that like, oh, that's them referencing the fixed camera angles from the games. And you know what? I like that. Because like you look at, there was one specific one that I remember from really early on, and I think it was him watching Alice kind of walking down an empty road, where it was basically like you saw the character kind of coming towards the camera in the distance. Yeah. I'm just like, that, I am almost 100% certain that's already a shot in one of the games.
It might be.
It might be in like 2 or 3, I don't know.
Yeah.
Another thing I liked how Nemesis looked.
Yeah, I
thought the prosthetics were fine.
But I actually think the prosthetics and the makeup, and in general the special effects as a whole in this movie definitely look a lot better than
Lickers look better?
Oh, the Lickers look so much better. Zombies, they looked all right. The costume, I will say overall, costumes and set design really felt very genuine in a lot of ways. We mentioned Jill, but also I did like with some of the RPD outfits looked like they did in the games, and there were some sets, and I think have we mentioned already that some of the shots that were actual, we mentioned the Code Veronica shot, but had we mentioned any of the other ones that were kind of homages to the games? Yeah,
we haven't. So we have a recreated shot counter of 3.
Yes,
right now.
We do. So the first one that I noticed that I actually really, really liked was we do get a lot of shots which are very clearly based off of the RPD's Last Stand from Resident Evil 3, and as well as the UBCS's Downfall from 3. And I actually really love those because there's actually a very deliberate homage with, at the end of the cutscene in RE3, when Jill is talking about like the fall of the RPD, you get a shot of basically panning down when it starts to rain, and you pan down on like a fallen RPD officer's helmet and see the zombies going by. They basically do that shot in this, and the moment I noticed that, I was freaking out with Gage because I was like, there it is! They did it! They did the thing, and I really like that. I love that shot. So that was really good. There was another. There was the graveyard shot, which was kind of a homage to both 3 and Code Veronica, but mostly Code Veronica, I'd say, due to the way it is with zombies popping out of the ground from the T-virus.
Was that a like shot recreation, or was that just kind of an homage in general?
It was kind of an homage, but I also felt like it was going, and again, because there are elements of that both in 3. You do go through a graveyard, and you do start to have zombies come up that were buried. But in Code Veronica, you have the full-on cutscene of Claire when she leaves the prison getting attacked by zombies popping out of the ground. I think it might have been more of a Code Veronica element, because I know for a fact that they were doing some elements from Code Veronica in this. There was one other one that actually I'd forgotten about, is they have the cable car from 3. It's kind of a vague reference, but you do get a shot of Jill and company gathered on the Raccoon City cable car, which I actually, again, really like. So it's very few scenes, but yeah, those scenes that actually do pay tribute to the games were really good. And I guess you could also throw in the scene of Nemesis shooting down the helicopter with the rocket launcher, because that was in 3 too. Different context, but that was in 3. So I liked those bits. Those felt like the bits of like, yeah, we know, and we're going to acknowledge the games. We're going to do it in a fun way. And I actually like those moments a lot.
It's nice in this movie. It's going to be kind of annoying when we hit
Oh, God, yeah.
Afterlife and Retribution. Trust me. I don't think there are any in Extinction, but you might be able to prove me wrong on that.
I'll see.
Just because you would know better than I would. But yeah, so like I like Nemesis, how he looked. There was some goofier stuff about it. Basically, anytime they don't zoom up on that fucking eyeball is fine. Just looking at him from afar, where his like eye is in shadow, looks just great. What we would have changed? Where do we want to start with this one? Do you want to go on your Nemesis rant?
Yeah, I'm going to start, before I get to the elephant in the room of Milla, I'm going to go on the Nemesis rant.
Go for it.
All right. You see, the thing is with this movie is, in Resident Evil 3, the thing that made Nemesis rather popular and a rather iconic and beloved enemy in the series is because he was the first time we had what you could consider a fast threat of a tyrant. Nemesis in the games is smart. He is cunning. He exists for the sole purpose of Umbrella tracking down and slaughtering the remaining STARS members because they're the ones who are trying to take Umbrella down. And it's the fact that anywhere you go, you have this giant beast able to run at you, use weaponry, basically impale you through the face with a fucking parasite tentacle, which is terrifying. And it's the fact that he is this massive beast, but it's that he's big, but he is fast, and he is smart, and he is sentient. That is what made Nemesis such a fan favorite. That is what made him so memorable. When I think back to RE3, I think back to going to the RPD. I think back to Brad getting impaled in the face and Jill having to back away, and the fact that you can fight him, but you are so underpowered that it is a nightmare. That is not the Nemesis we have here. What we basically have here is a robot. And by that I mean we have a lumbering giant who will sometimes walk like a walking turret with his Gatling gun, and is simply controlled by a few clicks of a laptop. A Sony Vaio laptop, might I add, because boy howdy, there's a lot of Sony product placement in this. And on top of that, we have to get the sad Beauty and the Beast kind of story of, oh, it's Matt, it's the love interest who does the selfless sacrifice as a monster. I'm not buying any of that shit. I'm never gonna buy any of that shit. It didn't make him scary. It made him goofy. And I just didn't like that. I know Gage liked the makeup. I'm still a little split. I think the suit looked great. The head looked debatable, but the fact that they set up even an entire scene just to wipe out a bunch of STARS members just so they can fucking do the stars thing just once, it left a bad taste in my mouth. And it also leaked into the games after this, because any incarnation we've seen of Nemesis since then, in games like Umbrella Chronicles, in games like Operation Raccoon City, even going into things like the recent VR music video for the franchise, which basically took game adaptation elements, it's Nemesis lumbering around, programmable on the spot, with a Gatling gun, sounding like a fucking robot. And that can, and just when it gets into a hands-on fight with him, and you see this guy in the Battlefield Earth style pumps, smacking his tiny arms around as best he can with Milla Jovovich, I just burst into a laughing fit again. It was the dog scene all over again, only, oh dear Christ, it was worse. So just, Nemesis in this movie is a fucking mess in my opinion, and God, it's cool to see him in a film. I do not like the way they've handled him, and I'm kind of sad of how they have impacted the game sense. So there's my Nemesis rant. Boy howdy, I needed to get that off my chest. Boy howdy. Also, the jump was fucking stupid.
It really was. I think I pointed out, because last week I mentioned that the two major movie adaptations of horror franchises have done a thing where the first movie is connected to the first game, second movie is connected to the third game. They kind of skip the second game entirely. And I also realized today that both this movie and Silent Hill Revelations end with a big dumb fight between two super-powered monsters.
Oh god.
Where this is Nemesis versus Alice, and Revelations is Pyramid Head versus the weird Cenobite version of the missionary enemy from Silent Hill 3.
I was about to ask if Pyramid Head fought, and
yeah,
god.
Pyramid Head fights.
Oh god.
Pyramid Head fights super good, and it's just as goofy as you would think it is.
Oh my god.
So the Nemesis prosthetics, I didn't think they were that bad. I would say if you really want to see like bad monster prosthetics, go check out the Predator from Aliens versus Predator.
Yeah, and I will say, honestly, I am looking back, and I am gonna contradict myself. Looking back, they are much better than I thought, and they're actually, you know what, the Nemesis prosthetics in this, the Nemesis design in this, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna admit, it actually was pretty good. I do,
except for the goofy Battlefield Earth pumps.
The Battlefield Earth pumps and the zoom in and the baby blue eye, which is the worst thing. I hate it.
The Battlefield Earth pumps are what pull me out of it, honestly.
Well, and I mean, yeah, he does have those kind of in the game, but it's the way he clumps. Basically, it's the clump.
The first time I saw them, I'm just like, they look like Kingdom Hearts shoes.
They do. Well, the Nemesis' whole outfit, if you think about it, he looks like a Kingdom Hearts reject to a degree. Like, he's a hot topic.
It's true. He is the Heartless. So
thanks.
No,
fans.
no, he's not a Heartless. He's a nobody.
Yeah, it's like thanks Umbrella Paris. Oh wait, it's not made by Umbrella Paris.
Umbrella Paris.
Umbrella Paris. He's not made by the French in this, so I don't know. They just went, no, just give him the pumps. It will look cool. It will look very nice.
So to address the next elephant in the room, in this conga line of elephants in the room.
It's like an elephant herd.
Let's talk about LJ.
GTA motherfucker, 10 points.
So, LJ seems to be an original character added to the movie for the purposes of comedic relief, which would be okay if it wasn't for the fact that he is a blatant racist stereotype.
And the fact that he is just not funny at all. He is awful. He is a pretty huge stereotype. He goes in with gold-plated guns. You clearly can tell they had to probably at a last minute switch some lines. I know there are some deleted lines that are pretty cringeworthy that I'm glad were removed, like upon seeing the zombie strippers going, even if it was something like, even if you were dead, I'd still pay for you.
Yeah, and the other one I remember was that I'm pretty sure I've seen the deleted scenes from this movie, and I'm pretty sure in the scene where he shows off his own guns, in the original version of that scene, I'm reasonably certain he drops the N-word.
Yeah, oh god.
Which, you have to consider that this was written by a white Australian man.
Yeah.
So he probably just like, oh, I've got a black character. I'll make him say the N-word because I can get away with it that way. Tee-hee. And it's just like...
It's funny. It's funny because he's the streetwise character. It's funny because he's a rascal, but it's not...
There weren't no final fight in this.
Oh, god damn it.
Final fight streetwise joke.
God damn it.
Reset the clock. Anyways, so LJ, for whatever reason, just kind of makes it to the end of the movie, which, okay.
Yeah, it's like he has no reason to be in this film.
He really doesn't. He just kind of shows up and he's just like, hey, I'm here now. And
Does he contribute anything? I'm trying to remember. Did he actually fly the helicopter?
No, he didn't. He commanded the co-pilot to fly it. He bumped into Carlos, but whatever,
he had
I guess.
No reason to be here. Holy shit.
LJ will, of course, return in Resident Evil Extinction, where he is way better. By Resident Evil Extinction, he's no longer a stereotype, and he's like a character now, But we'll save our...
I'll wait to see the redemption of LJ next movie, if there is a
the
redemption.
LJ redemption arc.
Up there with as many, it's like you think about the redemption arcs in cinema history. Vader, Draco Malfoy, LJ.
LJ from Resident Evil. Oh man, God, I'm like yanking on my headset here.
I would too for talking about LJ.
So LJ's not a good or well written character.
Yeah.
And then of course there is the continued emphasis on Alice and how this is the movie where she starts getting a little... She's becoming a Mary Sue.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, getting a little overpowered. They do attempt to give her some pathos, which they do continue in the next movie as well, where the entire idea is that because they're experimenting on her, because they're loading her up with all these abilities, she's starting to not feel human anymore.
Yeah, that I did notice, and I had forgotten about that the last time I saw.
And that's going to culminate in a good moment, in probably one of the better moments of Afterlife, like right at the beginning of the movie. And, we'll get into that when we get into Afterlife.
I think I know which moment you're talking about, and I'm going to be cracking up if it's the one I'm thinking of.
It's probably the one that you're thinking of, but like I said, we'll get into it. So, like we've mentioned, pretty much any scene that starts off good is ruined the moment that Alice shows up, and the movie improves when she leaves the action.
Yeah, I think the biggest instance of that, obviously number one, was the
church.
Absolutely stupid church scene, because god damn it, I hated that scene. Because I love that scene up till bursts through. Flips the cycle into a liquor, opens fire on the other liquors, giant plume of fucking fire, and it's after that, and it's much later after that, a line that just made me angry because it came pure fanfic, is Jill going, "I'm good, but I'm not that good." I just recoiled on the inside. Ugh. I recoiled, and then we get, oh god, I just remembered the other scene. No, there were two scenes. Second scene was...
There were two scenes.
There were three scenes. No, because there's also going down the wall. The second thing was the ruining of a Jill moment, an actual moment from the games, which is Jill lighting a stove on fire, getting gas in the room to get the zombie dogs out, nearly lights it to make it explode. That gets usurped for Alice fucking doing it with a cigarette. Excuse me, and I was just like, fuck you. You had the balls to do that, Paul. You had the balls to do that. And it's just awful. The third scene is basically the remaining 20 minutes of the film. Because we get the glorious moment of blocking out a sniper's lens, taking care of him, rappelling down a wall by basically running in slow motion, jumping off a building, and then beating the shit out of two guys with stun batons.
It was way more than two guys.
It was three guys. Yeah, three guys.
Like five.
Catching a knife in slow motion in midair, the Code Veronica scene, the entire smack fight with Nemesis, and just opening and just, God. And it's not that Milla's a bad actress. She's not, but she's a bad character.
Alice is a bad character. And it's like, you can... To really kind of illustrate the point of just, like, the movie's bad when Alice is part of the action, you can like look at the pacing of the movie and pinpoint where the movie is good, where it gets goofy, where it stops being goofy for a little while, where it's good, and then where it gets goofy again, because it goes everything, more or less everything up until she shows up at the church is good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything with Jill, everything with Carlos. We get a couple scenes with Alice that aren't actually that bad. Her kind of gearing up at in the corner store Walmart.
Yeah, those shots are really good.
So everything up to that is good. Then she bursts through the window.
Yeah.
And then things get goofy. We get a lot of scenes that could have been good Jill scenes, but Alice was there. We get the scene in the graveyard where they rack up a lot of mercenaries mode points. And then she gets into her first fight with Nemesis, leaves the action for a little while after going down the garbage chute where the movie belongs. And from that point onward, we get some good shit. We get the scene with Jill having to shoot Peyton. We get the scenes of them in the school. And then Alice shows up to steal another Jill scene. And from then on, the movie's just kind of ridiculous.
It basically becomes the Alice show. I think that's also what kind of hurts it is, because at the start of the film, it really sets up for Jill to be the main character this time. And almost for Alice to essentially be a secondary character. And that would have actually worked really well. Like, I would have been okay with that.
Yeah, if they had focused a little bit less on, like, hey, look at this cool stuff that Alice can do, and more on her. Like, you can have Alice do cool stuff.
Yeah, you can have Alice be the audience surrogate again, like she was in the first film.
Yeah, and I think what they probably should have... Because, like, the thing that I love about Alice's character, for the most part, is when she has that pathos. Like, seeing her be just like, I don't even know if I can consider myself human anymore. I think if you focus on that, have her do some cool stuff, like maybe lose the slap fight with Nemesis, maybe have something that's a little bit more kind of traditional to the Resident Evil games. Like, you can even have Nemesis still be Matt, for all I care. But, like, because, like, you set that up, it's just, like, that's honestly something I would change, where, like, I feel like have Alice be more of a... I would say Alice needs to be more of a Mad Max type character.
Which she's gonna be, yeah.
I mean, by the next movie, kind of.
And also, I get what you mean, though, of, like, she's a focus, but also kind of in the background for the other people to tell their stories, correct?
Correct. That's kind of what I want, where she's definitely capable, she definitely gets things done, but in the end, she's more of a conduit for other characters. Like, so for, like, Mad Max, you're looking at, like, in Road Warrior, he's more of a conduit for the people who are being terrorized by Lord Humongous. Max becomes a conduit for the kids in Beyond Thunderdome. He becomes a conduit for Furiosa in Fury Road. If Alice had become more of that kind of character, rather than being, like, ostensibly this overpowered main character who is, like, super awesome. And I mean, you lose some of that, admittedly, in Afterlife. And, like, because I rewatched I rewatched Afterlife before we started this, because it was one of the ones that I had less familiarity with. Afterlife still has a lot of really, really dumb moments. Its dumbest moments are all really front-loaded, and there's a point where the movie becomes a little bit better for a while, and you can pinpoint it, and it has a lot to do with that Alice pathos again. It's probably the same scene you're thinking of. That's when the movie becomes a little bit better, because, you know, now it brings Alice a little bit more down to earth, and it allows her to be less overpowered. It allows for some good moments with other characters, and even if she is ostensibly the main character and 100% the main focus, she's not quite as much of a scene stealer, and in fact, there's a point in Afterlife where she is removed from a scene so that Claire can do some cool stuff. And the cool stuff that Claire does, admittedly, still really dumb
Yeah.
and really kind of stupid and goofy, but it's not Alice doing goofy, stupid stuff. It's another character getting a moment to shine. Even if, in the end, Alice does kind of make like an 11th hour kind of show up, it's another character for a majority of that scene doing awesome, cool things that you in normal cases you would otherwise see Alice doing. And I mean that goes out the fucking window by the time Retribution comes around, but
Yeah.
for a while in Afterlife it's good and things are good. And that's honestly that's really the main thing, is that, like I said, I would have preferred Alice to have been more of like a Mad Max style protagonist.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And also on terms of characters, I have issues with this elephant parade just keeps on going.
Oh man, are we getting into Nikolai now?
Yes, we're getting into Nikolai.
Okay,
because that
I
ain't
will let
Nikolai.
you take the stage.
That ain't Nikolai. Nikolai Zinoviev, or Nikolai Zinoviev, if you want to go by whatever fucking Romanizations. I don't give a shit. All right, Paul Anderson. I want to sit down. I hope someday you hear this. Paul, what the ever-loving Christ did you do? What the ever-loving Christ did you do to one of the most memorable and fan-favorite characters? Actually, in two cases. You know, I'm going to bump this up from a Nikolai rant to let's go in order here. Let's start with the UBCS rant. The UBCS in 3 is basically the umbrella equivalent of STARS. They are sent in there to handle biohazard outbreaks because they are the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service, or SQUAD. I don't fucking know. But they're sent in to help civilians. They are sent in to take care of the outbreaks. What is one of the first lines of dialogue we get from a UBCS member in this film? Is basically, fuck the civilians, we gotta go back and help the Umbrella Corporation. Fuck that. Number one, you've screwed up there. Number two, Carlos, alright, he's kind of like in the games where he's the heroic type, but I had issues with his, again, personality. We've got that. But then it comes to Nikolai. Nikolai in the games is a supervisor. He is the head of Carlos's unit. He is a trained professional, and he is a bastard. He is a wonderful fucking bastard, because he is a man who goes out of his way to basically ensure that nobody else is alive, as going as far as to basically shoot them point blank and then excuse to Jill that, oh, he was about to turn into a zombie, just because he wants a paycheck. And he gets away is the best part. Canonically, he gets away from Jill. He survives to see another day being this scumbag. And he is deceptive, he is brilliant, he is talented, and if you go through games like Outbreak, he's in Outbreak too, and he basically sets everything in motion for his own gains. Yeah, alright, Paul, you had a great villain here. Not Mr. Major Timothy Kane. You had a great fucking villain in store with Nikolai. Yeah, you blew that out of the fucking water there, didn't you, buddy? Yeah, you did, because what we get is some redhead, plucky sidekick to Carlos, who gets mauled by a fucking dog, and has basically no personality, and is some hero in this film. Shit, son. That ain't Nikolai. That will never be Nikolai. And you fucked up so bad that I was fucking rejoicing. I was rejoicing and applauding and downright cackling with Gage when he gets lunged by a dog, because that is not how you handle the game character. That is my Nikolai rant, because of all characters, the Silver Fox himself deserved a hell of a lot better than the guy they got, than the role they got him. Just, I don't know how they fucked up Nikolai so bad, but oh my god, they did, and it's just, if they had just written him differently. My boy is out there, he should come back someday. But Paul, if you ever touch this franchise again, I don't know if you will now that the final chapter is done, son, you go back, you fix my son. You fix my treasure. You fix my treacherous Russian Wesker wannabe. You fix him, motherfucker. You fix him. Fix him. I'm done. I'm done.
So, be sure to tune in next week where we will be watching Resident Evil Extinction,
That'll be
which has my personal favorite Alice look in it.
Really? Oh, actually, that is a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I will say, yeah, because I did like that. That beats the Hot Topics. I can't say words. Hot Topic.
Hot pants.
Hot Pocket look. She's just dressed in a giant piece of bread.
We also see the return of Carlos Oliveira for his second film. He will be in one more after that. And then we also get our first Claire movie.
Oh, she is next, yeah.
Yeah. Ali Larter is in Resident Evil Extinction as Claire.
I'm looking forward to that as a Claire fan. I'm looking forward.
Like I said, she does a good job playing a movie version of Claire. I wouldn't say she's Claire from the games, but she's a good character, and I think Ali Larter does a good job.
I'm looking forward to her. I have a feeling she's going to be handled pretty well.
But yeah, so that's going to be it for us. I want to thank everybody who sat and listened to us talk about this, and especially sat and listened to Lou rant about his traitorous Russian child.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I saw the tweet, you son of a bitch.
This is what we're here for.
This was our last escape from this movie. I'm sorry.
But yeah, so no, that works. This was in fact our last escape. I want to thank everybody for listening to us, and we'll see you next time here on Code Jovovich.
Take care, everybody.
You did a really good job. This case was just too weird. This case was